and welcome back to the Talk of Fame podcast. I hope everyone is enjoying the fall weather this October month, but it's probably warm where you are, Andrea, in Australia.
It is
But
today.
but on today's episode, you might be thinking, who's the guest? Like who she is, what we're talking about. But I got you covered on this one. On today's episode, we have Andrea Putting joining us. Andrea is an international speaker, author, and trusted advisor. Through her keynote speeches, books, programs, and podcasts, she guides businesses to come at the authentic influence by collaborating to grow prosperity that changes the world. While the cause is serving humanity and the environment, the effect is kind of developing leaders and visionary teams to strengthen businesses, grow community within the workplace, and inspire consumers who want to support businesses they care. After studying homeopathy and neuropathy, Andrea started her business as an early adopter of the online world. When she sold the business, she entered the workforce as an employee, and now she discovered a world where basically healing in a different way. Her deep exploration led her to Social Mission Revolution, which is her podcast, like similar to her podcast. In 2019, she has been championing causes of passionate people making a difference in the world through a podcast, Social Mission Revolution. The podcast highlights inspirational people and businesses who have authentic influence on the world through social mission. Drea's work is absolutely amazing, and I think everyone that is listening to this episode is going to take in so many things from Andrea. I know, Andrea, you might be thinking like that's super long intro, and I agree with that one. But thank you so much for coming on Talk of Fame. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Like I said, it's warm in here in Australia, so I'm feeling bright and sunny with the weather.
Oh yeah, like I'd rather take Australia weather than the kind of fall cold weather here in Pennsylvania. So I'd rather take that. But first of all, like how like you had 3 to 4 books that you published. Like you, three of them were self-published. Like how did you kind of manage to self-publish 3 out of 4 books?
Well, that was a good question that I had because I actually did them all at this pretty much at the same time. I suddenly found myself with 3 books to publish, and that was just after around COVID time when we were locked in. We were the most locked in city in the world, so it was everyone was at home. What are we going to do with our life?
Yeah.
So anyway, I wrote 3 books. I thought, well, I can't afford to publish 3 books at a time. That's just insane. So I invested in getting experts to teach me how to publish. So then I went through the process of learning every step along the way of how to publish books, just thinking I was going to publish my own books. And then people started asking me to help them publish their books. So that's kind of become a little bit of a diva for me in life, but that's something that gives me the opportunity to help other people to make the difference that they want to make in the world.
That's awesome. Like, how long was the process to kind of publish the books all by yourself? Like, was it a couple of days, weeks thing, or did it kind of take like a day to kind of publish and get everything together to publish?
Well, it takes when I publish a book, I usually do it within about 6 weeks. The reason you can just go, okay, let's just publish this book and make it happen really quickly. But to do it right, by the time you get the cover designed and get the book and format the book into the correct way to make it really look and feel like you, that takes quite a bit of work. And then it's formatting for ebooks as well, and then finding the right categories to enter the books into so you can become a bestseller. So there's a whole lot of work involved in that. So yes, you can quickly get a book published, but to get it published so that it really is primed to make that difference, you've got to put in a bit more work.
Definitely. Like if it's, I feel like when you're a self-publisher, like it kind of takes like more out of you than if you had an actual publisher.
Absolutely. There is more involved. Well, actually, when I say that, I'm going to go back a bit there, because one of my authors, she had the offer to go with a publisher, and she looked at it and was kind of humming and hawing which way she would go. And in the end, she decided not to go with a publishing company because they wanted her to change a lot of her book. There was a lot of work that they wanted her to do in rewriting and restructuring what she had done. But then once you do publish with a publisher, you lose a bit of the copyright of your own material, which a lot of people don't like that idea. And while it's published by a big publisher and it gives them an opportunity to go into some places where a self-publisher can't go, you still have to put in that work. You still have to put in the work of marketing your own book. And that's an expectation. You sign an agreement that you're going to be doing that with big publisher. So whether it's more work or not, I don't know. But a lot of the stuff with formatting and getting it into the right places and getting it becoming a bestseller, there's a lot of information there. There's a lot of detail you need to go through and learn if you're going to do it yourself. And so that's why kind of there are people like me who support authors in doing that, so that they can focus more on getting themselves known as an author rather than getting bogged down in, well, how do I do this? How do I do that? Which is something that they may never use again. They just want to get their book out and focus on, this is who I am. So I encourage them to get out and tell the world who they are while I arrange all the other stuff for them.
That is seriously one of the most important things, is that even if you're a self-published author or someone is publishing a book for you, the most important thing is the book is kind of showing, their personality, but also promoting it with the media. I know with most contracts, like you said, have to promote it with the media to make it a bestseller, like you said, and to kind of get people reading the book, whether it's like a local news station or a big news station. Like either way, or even posting on social media, because with social media, it's a huge factor in promoting. But then it's in some type of contracts, it kind of comes to terms of how much media do you need coverage for this book, or how much things you need to promote for this book. Like I know with every contract in publishing, it's very much different from everyone else's.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. I haven't looked at many of the contracts, but I understand that what each one of them would require from you is completely different. And so either way, whichever way you go, you're going to have to put in some hard work to get the book known. And so you want the best kind of setup as you can possibly have to get it from one place to the other, to have that support to help you to work through it and to get it set up. Like getting it as a bestseller is the number one. If you get it Amazon bestseller, then that starts to open doors for you. That's kind of, it's a little key in being able to go to, so that when you do go to the media, when you do your social media, you can say, I'm a bestseller, and that just kind of, that must be
this
good.
goes crazy with people. You're like, you're a bestseller, I might as well buy your book then if you're an actual bestseller. It just like throws like kind of people like, oh, I should actually buy their books if they're a bestseller to their name. Like it kind of brings a lot of attention.
Yeah, it just adds that credibility, gives you authority as the expert in your field. And so that when you do go for things like speaking gigs, you can just go, I'm a bestseller. And they go, oh, well, that puts you ahead of that person.
Oh yeah. But like, what are kind of like your books about? Like, I know it's a bunch of like improvement books, like kind of from your personal journeys and everything. Like, what are kind of they about, if people are wondering?
My books, two of my books are the ones that I really promote and want to share with the world. It's Compassionate Prosperity When Success Is Not Enough, and Compassionate Purpose, discovering a life of fulfillment. So one of them is directed towards business and the other is directed towards individuals, but they have the same theme, which comes from, well, my life experience, my podcast, and talks all about social mission. So for business, it's getting businesses involved in social mission, how they can make that difference beyond just profit and what benefits it has for them, and a process that they can go through to help them define where they belong with social mission and how they can make the most out of that. So then compassionate purpose is targeted more towards an individual. So what is it that makes your heart sing, and how that's going to make a difference to your life? Because when we're involved in, when I say social mission, I could be talking about altruism on any level, whether it's starting your own social mission, your charity, your foundation, or whether it's volunteering. So we can look at that and go, well, what difference does that make in our lives? It makes us happier, healthier, greater social connections, and we live longer, because these are discovered through research that this is what they're finding. And altruism is actually activates all the same brain responses as sex. So it's really good for us physiologically as well as mentally. It helps us with depression. It helps all sorts of things. Feel good, be healthier. So I kind of look at it, I address it on that way, but there's that underlying desire in each and every one of us to make a difference and feel like we have lived a life that's been worthwhile. So that's what I focus on this book on. I give examples from my podcast, and I even guide them through how they can find that perfect volunteer gig in their life. And one of the things that I love that I've focused on in this book is the fact that no matter who you are, no matter what circumstances you are in, you can make a difference. So it can be quite simple. So I give a lot of really simple examples of ways people can reach out and feel like they're making a difference. And I think if you read the book, for some people, they would go, oh, I already do that. So it's kind of affirming for them that what they are doing may be all that they need to do at this point. It might be the only thing that they can manage. And that's great. Let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate the way that we can and do make a difference in the world.
Oh my gosh, I seriously love what you just said, because I know what you said with your book, like some people might see things that they might read in your book and think like, oh my gosh, I do that like every single day. And like people sometimes often realize they're making a difference in the specific thing until they see something or hear something or like your book that they're like, oh, I'm already doing this every single day. Like this is something I do. But no matter like under what circumstances you're in, whether it's like family, personally, mental health wise, or whatever situation you're in, every situation is different from what they are. And even if it's personally, you are basically helping others in their personal journey and making a difference not only in your life, because you're your biggest critic. Like the only person that can judge you is yourself. So really, it's just yourself that can really push us, inspire yourself, because you're the one that's making a difference is yourself. So you're the one that controls everything. So whoever you're inspiring, whether it's like your neighbors, a podcast, or going outside and be like, hi, how you doing? Like, nice to meet you. Like to people that you don't know. It can be so small, but it can be so impactful.
That's right. So one of the examples that I used when I got to the end of the book and I had a conversation with my mother, and so she's 86 and she makes an effort to be kind to people and to sit and listen to them and have a conversation with them. And I go, well, that's what it's all about. Seeing that that's what she can do at this point of her life. So that's what she's doing. And that gives her purpose in her life. She's in an aged care home and she will look around and see that somebody needs needs someone to talk to today, they're feeling a bit lonely, and she will go and talk to them.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. Um,
Yeah.
like how does like your books kind of help us in our day-to-day lives?
I feel that they give us just just that thing of, I can make a difference. And I think in our everyday life, we need to be aware that we are doing that,
Mm-hmm.
because without it, we kind of slip into the everyday, and life can get depressing. I was giving a talk on Sunday, and afterwards a lady came up to me and told me the story of her story of, she said, volunteering saved me. I couldn't look after myself. I couldn't do anything myself. She was really on a downward spiral. But when she started helping other people, that made a difference to her. That turned her life around. So I think it's kind of this balancing act in our life that when I know we've always got to look after ourselves. And so that's why I kind of look at this in this way and give people up. When we do look after other people, it helps us to look after ourselves, and we've got to find that balance. But recognizing that we are someone of value, we do give other people value in our life. We just knowing that we are valuable and that we can make a difference and that we are worthy of a space on this planet makes a difference in our everyday life.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. Because like when we do something like volunteering, it can be so impactful to other people that you may not know. Like even for me, when I volunteer in my community, like I get so much happiness. Like whenever I'm on a downfall, like I'm just miserable, I'm so upset, like I'm just dealing with so many emotions. Like and when that day I'm volunteering, I'm just in my own space where I'm just like I'm helping people. Like that, I don't know, it might not mean a lot to me personally, but it might mean a lot to the person I'm serving. Like it might mean a lot to the person I had a conversation with or who I'm helping that day. Because like when I'm helping people, it means like it just means the world to me in a way. Because some people might not have the opportunity to help and serve people the way I do, you know? So this makes me so grateful to have the opportunity to really just help people and just feel that happiness towards helping people in the community and bring people together for something. That's something that I really connected with what you're saying is that like even if it's something so small like volunteering, it can bring out so much happiness and smiles and laughter into a person.
Yes, in helping others, you help yourself.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like how did you kind of get into writing in the first place? Like I know like what you said earlier, like you kind of got into it in the pandemic, but what kind of inspired you to get into it?
Oh, well, I started writing. I never knew that I was a writer. And even through high school and whatever, I never thought that I'd be. I remember sitting in class once and we were supposed to write an essay, and I just sat there the whole class and wrote nothing. So I never knew that I could write. I started writing when I had my first website back last century in the dinosaur era of the internet. And I would write articles and things for that website. And I wrote a couple of articles that were published in printed magazines at that time, as well as various places all over the internet. So I didn't really sit down to write a book until 5 or 6 years ago. I wrote my first book, and that was because I was working with somebody else and we were talking about what we could do and how we could create something. And so from that, I just sat down and wrote a book. And after that, it was like, well, I can write a book and let's just keep doing this. And I've got a message to share. And as a speaker, it's a really good thing to also have a book, to put your message down and to be able to share it in that way, because it does give that extra credibility as a speaker if you've written a book. So with that in mind, I always had planned to write a book, and then I eventually kind of, because I'd been doing the podcast and I'd done all the research into what the podcast was about, social missions and benefits of it. And so it just kind of progressed from there, that yes, I was going to stop and write. And the other book that I've written, Moment of Infinity, is just my writings that I was doing, my spiritual writings that I was doing during COVID. And I really have another couple of books of that type to print when I get around to publishing them.
Ooh. It's crazy to think like that you like unexpected turns around from when you're younger to when you get older. Because like, even though like, let's just say like I might want didn't expect to be a podcaster when I was young. Like I was the shyest girl you ever meet in your life, I swear. But it's like so when I was young, I was like, I'm never gonna be a journalist. I can barely talk to other people. How's that possible? But then you get older, like, okay, well, I'm a podcaster now. Like, these like things just really turn to an unexpected turn as you get older, and your mind just really shift to a different perspective. And your interest changes to where you want to start the thing you didn't want to do when you're young.
Yes, it's very different to where you think you'll end up with when you're young. When you're trying to decide on that career for the rest of your life, when you're in high school, you really have no idea, do you? You don't know
Yeah.
where the world's going to take you.
Yeah, like you have no idea. Like I'm a junior in high school right now. I basically still have no idea what to do. Like, I mean, I have an idea, but I'm just like I have to put my life in my hands for the rest of my life in these next 2 years. Like, how is that even possible? Like, it's so hard to kind of figure out what you want to do with your life as soon as possible.
Yeah. So I think the lesson, what I would always say to somebody is that where you are now, you're not necessarily going to be choosing for the rest of your life. What do you want to do now?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you feel guided to go right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Because who
know,
knows,
and
your mind and interest might change in like 20 years. So who
yeah,
knows?
and
You
know
could
that
who
that's
knows
okay.
it will change.
So it's okay if you don't decide you don't like it for some reason. Like I spent 4.5 years studying naturopathy and homeopathy, and I love it. But when it came to sitting down and practicing it, that was another story. It just wasn't fitting for me. So it just kind of evolved into where I am now. So who knows where the world's going to take you?
Oh yeah. It's honestly very scary to think where the life is gonna take me in 5 years. It's very scary to be honest. Like where I am now and to see myself in 5 years, it's very honestly surreal to think about. Like where am I gonna be in 5 years, 10 years, you know?
Yeah. And I think these days you're not expected to have a 50-year career doing one thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
life has turned around, and you don't have to decide when you're 17, 18 that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. You can go, this is what I'm doing right now. 5 years time, I might do something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how does your podcast, Social Mission Revolution, highlight voices all around the world?
On the podcast, I talk to people who are doing social missions. So they are involved in a charity, a foundation, or they're a business that have taken on a social mission. So besides the fact that they have a business and they're doing whatever they're doing, they in some way make a benefit to the community in what they're doing. So, and that comes through a whole lot of different avenues. Some of them do things like every product or service that they have, then a portion of that will go to charity. Others hold will go out and volunteer together to do some kind of good in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a whole lot of different things that are there. Some of them are set up as social as social causes, so that they will social enterprises, so that everything that they do comes back as being good for the community, so that they will choose to use only businesses and supplies that are ethical, and to support the community, to support the growing community in certain areas such as developing countries and whatever with that. So there's a whole lot of different things. And then we have beautiful people who have started all sorts of different kind of charities and foundations that are really making a massive difference in the world. One of my favorite people is a lady in Melbourne who collects books that are so gently loved children's books from the community, and passes those on to children who are living in poverty or low income families, because she wants them to have books in their homes.
Oh, that's
She
so
wants
sweet.
because having books in their homes makes a difference to the child's ability to learn in the future. So she feels that if she makes sure that they've got books, she's changing the country by making sure that every child is ready to go to school.
That is such a great idea. Like, I know for me, like, I love reading, and every time I put a book down or finish reading, I literally learn so much. Even if
Yeah.
it's like a memoir or nonfiction or just a regular learning book about nutrition or something, like, you just learn every time you read. And this, like, reading is just so important to learn outside of school or outside of college, or just willing to learn. Like, you can learn so much through your time with reading, no matter if it's like a different genre, like nonfiction, memoir, biography, whatever it is, you learn so much.
Yeah. So she just sees that if kids go to school without being able to read, without having books in their life, they don't necessarily know to read when they go, but they've had that love of books, then they're just ready to start learning school. And there's a real correlation between kids who don't have books as in preschools and those who end up in jail. I mean, that's a horrible connection,
Yeah.
but that's one that she discovered, and she goes, I've got to do something about this. I'm going to change the country.
Ooh, that's terrific. I'm so like it's so happy like she realized that, because not a lot of people realize how much people can really develop through really reading books. Because even if
Yeah.
you're young, you can see things through your lens of your eyes, that when reading a book, that can really change what you want to do and how you want to act.
Yeah. And it opens their imagination and their knowledge of the world. It's just an incredible thing.
And like, what are kind of like the benefits of embracing social mission in business and life?
In business, it makes a big difference to the way people feel when they go to work. So uh, if people are going to work and they're just going through the routine of going to work, they're not going to be so engaged. But if they go to work and what they are doing is making a difference in some other way, then it lifts them. So they're going to work, and whenever they put in the time, then it gives the business the ability to help someone in the community, then they feel better about who they are and what's going on, and they're more engaged in what they do because they want that to happen. So it helps with productivity in a business. People are more innovative because they want to work at it, they want to make things happen, and that creates more profitability. The community want to support businesses that are making a difference, that are supporting the community. We do that. We will spend a little bit extra to support a company that is has a social mission than one that doesn't. So that's a major factor for businesses to consider. But also so just in that general way of how people feel about themselves, how they work, how they feel when they go home at night makes a big difference. They go home and they say to their families, our business is doing this. Children learn that work isn't about money, it's about making a difference, which I think is more valuable than anything else in the world that I can possibly think of. So there's so many benefits in that, as well as the benefits for the individual, as we talked about earlier, of just happier, healthier in life.
Yeah, like, yeah, I know, like, a lot of people think like, oh, I just want to go to work to make some money. Like, I just want to get my paycheck. Like, once I get my paycheck, I'm the happiest kid on earth. Like, that's what a lot of people think. But when you're going to work, like, the biggest thing you have on yourself is really making people happy, make a difference. No matter if you're a box office attendant or a cashier, or you're putting food and drinks out. Like, even if it's something that might not be as fun as other jobs, you can still make a difference in other people's lives and still make it as fun. You can just go up to someone and be like, oh, I love your shirt. Like, to say something, like, no matter how big your job is, it can be helping other people. It's not all about making a paycheck. Well, that's still kind of important too, though. Don't get me wrong, but it's like the most important thing is making an impact on other lives when you're working, not only for yourself.
Yeah, it's a really important part of life that without it, we just don't feel as good. I don't want people to feel good.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But that is seriously the perfect way to end off this episode. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to this episode. I learned so much from Dre, and I hope everyone did as well. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day, whatever you are. And thank you, Andrea, for coming on and taking the time to chat with us today. And I appreciate you dedicating your time and everything to come on the podcast and chatting. It means so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day enjoying the warm weather in Australia. I'm super jealous.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, Carly.
Thank you. You as well. Hope you have a great rest of your day, Andrea. Bye.